Shalom, family. This is Yael. I just wanted to ask a simple question. To everyone who claims some type of belief in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to all that holds up, that will hold their scriptures up, their Tanakhs, their Bibles, and hold it up in the air, and they make declaration that they believe it from Genesis to Revelation, from Genesis to Malachi, or from Genesis to Second Chronicles, and even some who even will say they believe it from Matthew to Revelation. I am more concerned with the group that say they believe it from Genesis to Second Chronicles, because I believe that is where the Holy Scriptures are contained, where the Word of God is truly found. Most of all in the first 5 books of the Scriptures, known as the Law of Moses or the Book of Moses, but it is the Torah, the teachings and instructions that Yah gave to Moses to give to the people. And the prophets is the prophets that Yah raised up to send to the people to keep them in line and let them know of pending dangers or things that was coming their way because of how they transgressed him, or the blessings that came because how they held on to him and they stayed steadfast regardless of all the oppositions that they faced. They remained faithful to Yah. So Yah will raise up messengers for them to keep them in line and to let them know they will stay on the course. But the course is righteousness, the Torah, and worshiping the one true Creator, their Father, their Maker, their Redeemer, the one that brought them up out of Egypt, by using Moses as a mouthpiece, and Aaron and Mary, that he said within the scripture that he raised up for them, the Israelites. So for you who say you believe in the whole book, now I'm speaking to the Messianics and the Christians, you say you believe in the whole book and you include the part that I believe is the Holy Scriptures. Most people say it's the Old Testament. Now if that is true as well as the New Testament, if I believe just the Old, the Tanakh, the Torah, how am I in error if you say it's truth too? Moses, Abraham, the prophets, they only had one book, well, a series of books that they categorized into what we say is the Tanakh, the Old Testament. They had the prophets, and of course they had the Torah. And even the one who you say is your Messiah, who you say is who you call Jesus or Yahushua, he only had one scriptures. He never followed the New Testament writings. He only had one book. Even the early church only had the so-called Old Testament to follow. Remember, in the book of Acts, Paul was using the scriptures, the Old Testament, to show people that Christ was in it. So he didn't even use the New Testament. Jesus knew nothing of the New Testament. The early church knew nothing of the New Testament. So the very thing many of you gravitate to and hold so dear, the early church knew nothing about. Their disciples didn't know anything about it. So you're holding on to something that the apostles and your Messiah never even knew anything about, never endorsed. So yes, return back to the Torah. Yes, return back to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He has a name. The name is not Yahushua. The name is not Jesus. His name is Yahuwah. Some might pronounce it other ways. But when you talk about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I know who you're talking about. You may pronounce the name differently, but I know who you are identifying with. When we could come to a place of being on one accord, We could come to a place of being on common ground when we understand that we're supposed to serve the Creator, the Holy One of Israel, Jehovah, Yah, and we are supposed to keep His commandments. And that's it. That is it. Yah never mentioned to His people, the only way to draw closer to me is to place your faith in a Mashiach. He never said the only way you could draw closer to me is you have to accept the sacrifice of the Mashiach. That language is void in the Torah, in the Tanakh, the so-called Old Testament. There's nothing old about it. It is the living word of the Creator. It is eternal. It has no expiration date. And most of all, Yah has no expiration date. So how could Yah become a man that died and then return if He's eternal? Once He ceased to be, He revealed He was not God. And then you got to ask yourself this question: did the one who you say is God in the flesh, did He even believe He was God? Because if you look at some of His statements within the New Testament, most of all, one of the biggest ones I love pointing people to is John chapter 20, I believe verse 17. I believe I'm paraphrasing, when He tells Mary not to touch Him. He said, I am not yet ascended to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. So how can your God have a God? And if He is the Father in the flesh, how does the Father have a Father? So that's just something to think about. If you say you believe the Word of God, yes, apply it. If you say you honor the whole book, including the Old and the New, if you encounter someone like me that only embrace the Old, which is somehow you say it's still true, but if I don't believe in the New, you say I'm in falsehood if I just believe the first half of the book. You got to explain that to me, how that works. I'm honoring the side where we see Yah speaking. But in the New Testament, we don't see God uttering a single word. Most often they're identifying that it is God speaking. We see a lot of words of men. Not one, thus said the Lord, unless it's actually quoting from the side that I say is the Holy Scriptures. So I just wanted to make this quick video right here to address that. If you say you believe in the Word of God, follow it. Just make sure the Word of God that you follow is indeed His words and not the words of mere men that you saying came from God. And when you look at it in comparison, something about that New Testament seems to be contradicting what's in the so-called Old. So that lets you know it can't be coming from the same Creator, the same source of truth, because it will line up, it will not contradict. So anyway, this is your brother, this is your friend Yael. I'll talk to you later. Shalom. Enjoy your rest.